This is why fanboys slash fangirls are ridiculous. So I've been dealing with a bunch of people on both sides of the fence lately going this and that over which brand is better, like which company and or platform of given devices is better, like be it Xbox versus PlayStation or Ford versus Chevy or anything like that. Now I'm going to take shots at electronic stuff, not automobiles, because I know more about electronics than I do automobiles, even though I deal with automobiles all the time. Anyway, this particular video is going to be targeting fanboys over Apple versus Android and Android versus Apple. Now, to be fair, kitty gloves are being taken off on both sides. I do use Android exclusively, and I know plenty of people that use Apple, and I'm usually the odd person out. So I'm taking shots at a company that is very popular, but I'm also being fair because of the people that are not Apple users, like myself. Anyways, things that are out of bounds. I will not be taking shots at the Mac OS because Android does not have a desktop equivalent to the OS X platform. This is strict Apple iOS versus Android, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so there are going to be 5 areas I'm going to take particular aim at, and those will be including build quality, price, customization capabilities, software, and the actual hardware that is involved with the device itself, which the latter two will coincide with each other. So let us begin. Okay, build quality. We'll be fair on this one. Apple, statistically, they do have some pretty up there grade hardware, as in like, okay, they've got decent this, that, and the other. Fine, whatever. Yeah, they use scratch resistant glass and whatnot, and their backing is a little bit protective, but more often than not, their screens do get scratched a lot or smashed or dented or discolored, or any number of things can happen. I've had several iPod products and Apple products in general. I've seen people's Apple stuff smashed before very, very easily. Granted that this happens to a lot of phones too. Now, I've had some phones I've had military grade Android phones before. I threw them so hard they went into a wall and the wall lost. Okay, I picked the phone up and I was in the middle of a phone call to prove a point. And I do not have a video of me doing this, but at some point, if I could ever get that phone back onto a service that runs IDEN, I'll be sure to point out that it can be done. Anyway, moving on from the build quality thing. Yeah, iPhone screens crack very, very easily. I've seen it happen. iPod touches screens crack easily. Now, any phone will break if you hit it with a hammer, pretty much, but I mean, seriously, all you have to do is pretty much look at an iPhone screen and it'll crack. And you can sit there and bash me at any point. You can turn this video off, dislike it, whatever you want to do, but look at the simple truth. Okay? Android phones are just as bad, but some of them come equipped with Gorilla Glass. A lot of the Asus level tablets do, and I don't know about the iPad, but yeah, they're pretty much the same boat. Anyway, price point. Apple loses. There's no question. Apple, you basically get a choice in the size of your memory capacity, which pretty much directly dictates how much you're paying. Like, I think it goes up $100 for every doubling in size. So like, oh, you went to a 4 to 8, that's another 100. You go to 8 to 16, it's $1.50, so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. Now you can buy an off-brand, like off-carrier, like no brand loyalty basically to iPhone. You can go to Boost and buy an iPhone 5S for $520, I think, last time I checked. You can go to Metro PCS and buy one for, again, $500 something. You can buy the iPhone 5C, which is what children tend to get, or teenagers, or anybody that likes to explore and be individualized in all 5 colors that there are. Again, for about $500. If you saw my review video from my phone, which I'll post somewhere over here at some point, one of these areas. Anyway, I paid $165.36 or whatever the number was. Actually, you know what? Hold on. $165.34. Sorry. Yeah, $165.34. I keep all my receipts, whatever. Anyway, that was to buy the phone, add a plan, and cover the entire first month, and buy a case for it. Yeah, good luck buying an iPhone like that. Okay, and mine's not even a very high-end phone. I've got 5-megapixel camera. I've got 1080p capabilities. I have the ability to point at a TV with a remote and use it as a remote. You know, it's there. I mean, it's more than I need. It's got, if I'm not using GPS, it's got battery. I can leave it alone for over a day and it'll come back and it'll be just fine. I mean, I didn't use my GPS almost at all today, and I'm sitting at 80% power, and I've been up since 11 o'clock. It is 2:20 in the morning right now where I'm at as I'm writing this to you now. Just check my clock, and yeah, my Wi-Fi and everything's on. I've seen Apple phones, or iPhones rather, die in under 6 hours. You might say that that's overuse. I'm like, no. Well, yeah, it is, but iPhones aren't very good at optimizing their battery usage either, if you think about it, which we'll go ahead and move away from price point in just a second. I want to cover that there are Apple phones that are cheaper than some Android alternatives, but for the lion's share of them, Android has far more options for price conscious people. So if you want a $100 phone, a $200 phone, 3, 4, so on and so forth, so on and so forth, tablets too. Apple pretty much gives you like 5 options tops, and they're all size compatibility or generation models. If we want to stick to current generation, you have even less options. So moving on to the customization capabilities of each device. iOS is pretty much static. I don't think it's possible to switch down to another version. I remember my friend's niece, one of his nieces rather. Anyway, she recently had her phone bricked over a firmware update, I believe it was. Like, the OS got installed on her computer. No, it was a software, not a firmware. I'm sorry. Anyway, its software version, the OS it was running on, was not. It was glitchy. It was bricking people's phones left and right. If you were lucky, you had a phone that was resistant and would work with it. She was not. She had to have another one sent to her or whatnot. She had something done for her. And first of all, the 13-year-old kid was distraught because her phone wasn't working, as all teenagers you can imagine, which that leads to a whole slew of other things I don't like. But we're going to stay on topic on this one. So yeah, UI on Android is far more customizable than on the iPhone or iOS. Yes, you can move your icons around on the screen and everything, but as in my review video, you saw me changing icons for whatever I wanted. I could change my wallpapers, add widgets and all that kind of stuff, and change their outlooks. Apple does have widgets, but seriously, the options are pretty limited. They want you to pretty much use whatever they've got. Now, more on with the customization, which will now start spilling over into software. It's easier to control the battery usage of an Android because you can sit there and turn a whole lot of things off. Like, I don't need Bluetooth, I'll turn it off. I don't have to sync constantly with a computer, turn that off. I don't need Wi-Fi enabled all the time or 4G enabled. All that stuff can be disabled at a push of a button. Unless there's a swipe, smush, click, done. Okay. Now we're gonna move into the software component now, where Apple tends to have consistent OS versions. Like I think they're like the iOS 7 or 200 or whatever the hell the number is now. But that being said, to be fair, Android has, I think, about a dozen different variations to it now or whatnot. There's a donut, eclair, froyo, ice cream sandwich, honeycomb, let's see, jelly bean, things like that. My phone's one of those. It's like 4.1. I think it's jelly bean, but you know, there's so many versions of firmware you can install and so many different OSs you can install on these. Yeah, firmware in this case. So iOS and Android's firmwares and their kernels. Yeah, Apple might send updates regularly, but every time an Android OS comes out, damn, bang for buck. But problem is you have to wait a while for them. So Apple tends to update faster, but they don't tend to have as much of a bang as an Android equivalent. And yeah, so there's that. And again, I'm objective on both sides here. I'm being green area or gray area neutral. So software, again, like Google's Google Plus thing, where they're just now starting to make it to where you synchronize everything, to where I've had to actually go in and delete contacts via my Gmail account so they wouldn't pop up. Like every ex I've ever had since I've had an Android phone, I had to delete every single one of their numbers unless I'm still talking to them for some reason. No biggie. Apple platform, the iOS, you have to sync everything up to your iTunes, which I remember a long time ago where iTunes is actually better than Media Player. I loved iTunes. I loved everything about iTunes. I had thousands and thousands of songs, you know, from people just giving me CDs and stuff, and other things like LimeWire and all that kind of stuff back then. Yes, sorry, FCC and whatnot, statutes of limitations, I'm good. Anyway, yeah, so I had people giving me music and video and all that kind of stuff. It was great. I was able to stick it on iTunes. Now you have to have it to install anything on your iPhone, anything on your tablet, anything like that. And if your iTunes account gets corrupted for some reason, like if you lose it, every song that you bought on iTunes no longer works on your iPhone. All that kind of stuff. Oh, and the best part, the software, you used to be able to plug in I used to use my iPod, a 60 gig iPod back in 2007 and 8 when I had my iPods regularly in school. I used those as a hard drive. I was using, not hard drive, but a flash drive, which effectively would make it a hard drive. Anyway, I was able to store my school projects and all that kind of stuff. I'd be sitting there at the computer charging up my iPod while playing on it and doing schoolwork and stuff in class. Nowadays, you have to do several kind of hacks to your iPhone, which Apple frowns upon so very much. So, no. Again, I switching back and forth between hardware and software. Android doesn't have that problem. Okay? Android fully lets you, without jailbreaking it, go into your task managers and let you go into anything you want and change what is being used, let you delete things on the fly, install things on the fly. We have the ability now on my phone. All I gotta do is tap with my phone with someone else's phone if it supports it, and we can change contact information. We can change all sorts of other things. I've yet to see an Apple product that can do that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong if that's the case, but as far as I know, it's not happened yet. Anyway, now, to be fair, we're going to go into hardware. Every damn thing Apple has is pretty much proprietary except for earbuds. Even then, they want you to use Apple brand. And this one I can be pretty harsh to Apple on, because when you buy an Apple, going with price and all that kind of stuff, you're buying whatever capacity you're buying, you're stuck with. So if you buy an 8 gig, good luck storing an entire library of songs from one band. Like, I think at Metallica's last count, like every album they've ever released was more than 10 gigs. So good luck if you're a Metallica fan. Anyway, my phone, all I gotta do is pop the case open, slide a little memory stick, an SD card in there, and boom, I'm good to go. I have 16 gigs to play with. I have up to 100 gigs probably. I don't even know. I don't need that much space on a phone. Yeah, I can take higher quality pictures than an iPhone with a typical run-of-the-mill Android phone. Retina displays, that's all well and good, but you know, I'd rather have a 10 megapixel camera do it than instead of a Retina or whatever. My brother's phone, it's got Carl Zeiss lens in it and everything, and it didn't cost anywhere near it. He signed a plan, but you know, like seriously, like it's his thing, and he's kind of kicking himself for it, to be honest with you. If he's watching, he's probably sitting there shaking his head up and down. So yeah, hardware wise, again, everything on an iPod or iPhone or tablet is proprietary. They have one kind of connection type connected via USB. That one type is not compliant with pretty much everything else. So yeah, if you're an Android person, be ready to use your USB, bring your USB cord, because Apple does not work for you. Now, vice versa for Apple, a lot of people don't like Apple because they're associated with douchebags, basically. You know, like all these hipsters and stuff, they all have Apples, and they sit around all day. You know, the stereotypical hipsters that sit in a coffee shop complaining about things all day, sipping on a mochaccino, and most of them tend to not be employed, that kind of stuff. Yeah, they tend to be gifts from mommy and daddy, that kind of thing. And if you actually legitimately have a job and prefer to use Apple, go ahead, use Apple. I'm just pointing out some facts that you should be aware of, and hopefully you'll be informed a little bit on your next purchase of an iPhone or any kind of phone, rather. So yeah, hardware wise, all phones pretty much do the same thing, but like I say, to a certain point, Androids are just as flimsy. But when you start getting up to like Motorola Droid X and stuff like that, they tend to be able to take a crap ton of a beating before breaking. I've had phones that could survive being flushed in the toilet. They're designed to do it. They were meant to go on a swim. They could survive underwater for over an hour, that kind of stuff. I've seen them with batteries that last more than 12 days on standby. Like, oh, I'm not touching my phone. I'm just going to let it do anything. My Asus tablet, which is over that way, yeah, it's sitting on a little shelf right now. Anyway, when I leave it on charge, it'll stay on for 5 days, just beeping every time I get a Facebook post or every time I get a Skype call or anything like that. Like, the thing will go off and I'll forget that it's on, unless it updates something. And that's on a single charge, and I bought the thing used. You know, like, seriously, I've never seen an Apple product that can do it. So anyway, guys, that's about enough of me bashing Apple on this one. Even though I'm clearly bashing Apple, I'm being subjective. Well, I'm not being subjective. I'm being fair, is what I should say. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on the Apple versus Android, and even versus the Windows phone, which is very less predominant? Anyway, what is your view on Apple versus Android versus other smartphone types that you can have? Be sure to leave your commentary, and this is going to be fun probably, in the comments below. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have a lot of hate for me being so honest about Apple. But yeah, coming from me, I hate Apple, but you know what? I have to look at things from both sides if I'm going to do comparisons. So yeah, guys, as always, thank you for checking out the videos, and be sure to check out the other videos that will be over here, and hit the like and subscribe button. Don't like, or hit the dislike if you dislike, like if you like, and if you dislike, explain to me why you dislike, and if you like, comment why, and be sure to share. So as always, guys, this is Cody Corte PC saying thanks for watching. Have a good one.